Hi there, Misha Gill with Speedwell Law. In this video, I'm going to talk about the advantages of transferring a bank account into a living trust versus leaving the bank account titled individually in someone's name and then establishing a pay-on-death designation. Okay, so the reason I said it that way about the bank account with the POD is that you can avoid probate under either of two strategies when it comes to bank accounts. You can avoid probate by titling the bank account in the name of the trust, or you can avoid probate by establishing a pay-on-death designation, right? And so both of those strategies avoid probate. So which is better from an estate planning perspective? Well, it's still going to be titling the bank account in the name of the living trust. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So let me go through some of the pros and the cons. And I'll do the bank account titled individually with the POD first. Now, the benefit of a pay-on-death designation is that it's really simple to set up, okay? You just go to the bank and ask them for their pay-on-death paperwork, and you can establish the pay-on-death designation rather quickly and easily. However, the pay-on-death designation arrangement does not provide for management of that asset during incapacity. And so there's actually another hidden step that you would have to take, which is adding your power of attorney agent to that bank account so that that bank account can be managed during any period of incapacity, and then the pay-on-death designation goes into effect to avoid probate down the road. Okay, and you can establish the pay-on-death designation to be payable to an individual or to the trust, and ideally it would be to the trust if you have a living trust. Another big pro of the individual bank account arrangement is that it doesn't disrupt your auto debits and credits, your ACH transactions. And so that allows for your affairs to just continue to unfurl as they always have. And that is a tremendous convenience. Now, you do still have to do the two-step process to manage that bank account from an estate planning perspective, but you can do the same thing without disrupting your auto ACH transactions, which is quite nice. But to reiterate, the cons are incapacity is not planned for with a pay-on-death, and you have a couple of extra steps when it comes to claiming that asset down the road. You have to furnish the death certificate to the bank in order for them to pay it to the POD beneficiary. Okay, now talking about titling the bank account in the name of the trust. Okay, and this has the benefit of being a one-step procedure that takes care of the asset forever, right? And if you transfer the bank account into the name of the trust, the incapacity provisions of the trust will apply to management of that asset during your lifetime. So the trust can have power of attorney like properties and protect your property better than a pay-on-death designation, and also protects it better than managing that bank account under a power of attorney arrangement. Because in a power of attorney arrangement, two people have authority, with the agent not having the ability to revoke the principal's authority to act. Under a trust, a trustee can be removed for being incapacitated. And so, that's a double-edged sword, right? Obviously, you don't want to lose control of your asset, but if you are incapacitated, you do want it to be protected. All right, so incapacity is managed much more effectively with a trust than with a power of attorney. That's one of the significant pros. The other significant pro is that the asset is already where it needs to be in order to avoid probate. If it's titled in the trust terms are going to affect the distribution. You're still going to furnish the death certificate to the bank and say, I am serving as trustee now, but no transfer has to happen. As soon as the bank transfers that paperwork, you have signing authority and you can go ahead and start using that bank account to pay bills. And that's quite nice. It's a real luxury to have liquidity in that period right after someone has died, which is a lot harder to accomplish even with POD and other arrangements. But it is like having joint tenancy on that bank account by titling it in the name of the trust. Now, the cons of titling a bank account in the name of the trust are that it requires, in many cases, a new bank account number. It depends on your bank, but many banks will not simply open a new bank account, or it will not simply transfer the bank account into the title of a living trust. They will force you to open a new bank account in the name of the living trust, and that assigns a new account number. And so your auto debits and your auto credits have to be manually moved over to the new living trust account. There's also the additional con of this being a little bit more sophisticated of a transaction at the bank. And you never know who you're going to get at the bank. And, I always like to view these situations with optimism, and you're going to get a great customer service representative, but we know that's not always going to be the case. And so if it's someone's, first couple of weeks or months on the job and they've never seen this, it can be a little harder for them to understand. And you have to provide certain paperwork to the bank in order to prove that the trust exists and to provide the bank with all the relevant things about the trust that they need to know. We furnish our clients with a document called the Certification of Trust that accomplishes that, but then the bank will often say, well, it's not on my letterhead, I don't recognize it, so can you copy all that information over into our form with our letterhead on it? Ugh. So, there's a little bit of friction in terms of setting up a bank account in the name of a living trust that can be avoided with the POD designation, but there are significant benefits to establishing a bank account, your primary banking, in the name of your living trust. You can live your whole life through a living trust, and that is the optimal way, that optimal arrangement for managing assets for estate planning purposes. All right. Thanks for joining me for this video. Misha, Gill, Speedwell Law. Give us a call if you need any help.